Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest. Riker, obviously the season is still off the go and there's some speculation whether the NBA will return this season, and we just debated whether the break will be a positive or negative for the Raptors if it were to return, but a lot of people, especially in the comment section, were skeptical, and we are as well, if it will even return at all. But there's one positive that certainly goes in the Raptors' favor if the season does not return, and it's the coveted free agent Giannis Antetokounmpo. For the past, I feel like 4 or 5 seasons, we've been talking about Giannis possibly becoming a Toronto Raptor. We've made videos on it in the past with his relationship with Masai Ujiri and just a lot of ties that he has to the Raptors team, and we can link some of the videos in the description. But Riker, why is this this break, and if the season doesn't go ahead, why is this so important for the Toronto Raptors in their pursuit of Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Well, Ben, you can tell us why it's important, but cue dramatic music, dun dun dun. And it might be a negative because honestly, we're hinging a lot of our ability for Giannis to entertain the possibility of leaving the Bucks in free agency to their inability as a team to have any success in the playoffs, right? But if the playoffs don't even happen, what is your train of thought in saying, well, I'm going to leave this team, right? You're not making that decision based on whether or not you're actually able to get success with a certain franchise if the possibility for even contending for a championship doesn't exist, Ben. So I think, you go ahead and make your arguments about how it could be a positive. Also, there's going to be a caveat. We'll have to have a full breakdown video, Ben, on what is actually going to happen with the free agency situation, how it's going to play out. If the season is extended into the summer, how will that affect free agency signings and everything? But just in terms of us focusing in on Giannis, I think that there's a good argument to be had in both directions, Ben. So you think it's a positive. What brings your head to that decision there?
Well, Riker, Giannis has come out and said he's willing to stay with the Bucks as long as they're winning, as long as they're having success in the playoffs. And you brought it up. The Bucks had a really good regular season this year, and it looked like they were going to have a very strong playoffs. They were favored in the Eastern Conference. We still think the Raptors, assuming we're healthy, could have an edge and a possibility of knocking them out. But this, if the playoffs don't go ahead and we just go straight to the offseason, there's no proof of concept for Giannis because they had the first seed last year. They had a remarkable year last year, and they ended up losing in the conference finals last season. If they don't get a chance to play in the playoffs this year and go forward and have some success and show Giannis that they can have success in the playoffs, they only have really one season left to prove to Giannis, hey, we can be a finals contending team. Where Mike Budenholzer has struggled in the past in the playoffs, even with those 60-win Atlanta Hawks teams. There's no proof of concept right now for Giannis that, hey, I can win in the playoffs in Milwaukee. There's proof that he's shown that he can have success in the regular season and have strong teams, but he's a guy that has come out and said he'll stay in Milwaukee as long as he's having success, as long as the team is championship caliber. And this was a real testing season for Giannis to see, hey, can this franchise really put together a roster and make things work around me? And the fact that might not be able to happen, and this is the summer he can potentially sign that Supermax, we might see Giannis possibly turn down that Supermax due to that uncertainty. And then if there's only one season left and the Bucks only have to struggle in one postseason, then that could be a huge amplifier for Giannis wanting to leave. And the Raptors have been known as the number one option for outside of Milwaukee in terms of getting Giannis when he becomes a free agent.
Well, it's absolutely true, Ben, and I'm going to deflect back to my opening statement, so to say, that really, if he's being offered a Supermax contract and the only reason that he would sway is that, and again, this is assuming that he's willing to turn down a lot of money, right? More money than any other team could offer him. I know you raised the point that he's willing to entertain other offers, but if he's just basing his opinion on whether or not they have the ability to be a winning team, but you haven't even been able to test that, I'd be hard pressed for him to be willing to step away from what is looking like the odds-on favorite this season to win a championship, and they have all of their key roster players locked down in at least a 2-year contract from now on out. Chris Middleton being the longest, but then also key guys like Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, DaVincio. There's a bunch of guys. Honestly, I'm not that worried about the Bucks as an overall team. And what we've saw in the few games, even though the Raptors have lost against the Bucks, is that I think there actually is a really real possibility that playing against them in the playoffs, I think you could definitely see a repeat of what happened in the previous season, in that once you clamp or lock down Giannis, however possible one might argue that is, really the rest of the team struggles, right, to pull them together. But I think the thing is that I'm sort of resting my thoughts on is, as a player, as an individual, if you're saying you're only going to leave if they're not demonstrating to you that they can win, but you're in the most situation possible right now, and then the ability to even play in the playoffs is taken from you, what is the repercussions as a player if you then decide to walk away? Especially with everything that happened with Kevin Durant and the manner that some players leave their teams. He seems to be a guy that kind of cares about the fan base, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that front.
That's fair, but no one really expected Kevin Durant to do something like that either before it happened. People kind of looked at Kevin Durant in the same vein they do Giannis right now. So that might be kind of a parallel for him leaving. But my point is,
that's the question before you even get into it. Are the Bucks expecting that he might walk away? Like, obviously, as Raptors fans, we have these high hopes, and I guess as any other team around the league, you'd also hope that you could snag him in free agency, being one of the best players in the NBA right now, if not the number one or number two player. Do the Bucks think that there's any chance that he could leave?
I think, when you look at Bucks Reddit and the fan base, I think they believe he's going to stay. Obviously, they have a solid roster and all that, but the things that have come out about Giannis, he's been pretty consistent. He said he's not thinking about any of that right now. He wants to be in a winning situation, and he's alluding to the playoffs. He was frustrated when he lost in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and not with the franchise specifically, but he doesn't want to be in a losing space. And yes, they've been phenomenal in the regular season this year, but if he doesn't test out, if that's his number one priority by far, and if it's money, and that's what he's alluded to, so I'm going off under that assumption, and it's fair for people to make the argument that, hey, it's really tough for him to turn down supermax money. That's a tough thing for someone to do. So I'm going to concede that argument, but assuming winning is his number one option, or his number one decision-making factor, then it's going to be tough for him to lock in 5 or 6 years with the Milwaukee Bucks if he's unsure that he can get it done in the playoffs there, because there's been no proof of concept. And this year was really the testing year, testing out the waters to see if they can make the finals in Milwaukee to sign that contract. And now, as it's brought up, people were saying that if Giannis doesn't pick up that supermax option, the Bucks are going to be, I think Brian Windhorst said that a couple months back. I remember hearing that. That might be a miss. Don't directly quote me on that, but I believe if there's going to be some speculation if he doesn't sign that super max contract, the Bucks will be wary. And obviously it's different circumstances considering they didn't get a chance to play in the playoffs, but if he doesn't sign that super max, they have 1 year to prove to him that they can win in the playoffs, and if that doesn't work out, then I could see him potentially moving. That's the biggest reason I could see him moving. And Ryker, one big thing too, because you and I, and obviously we're Raptors homers, so to speak. We believe in the Raptors maybe more so than the average fan or something like that. But the Raptors are the team that we kind of expect to beat the Bucks if the Bucks are going to lose. We think they have the highest chance out of the Celtics, the Sixers, the Heat, all these other teams. If we can kind of if the Bucks cannot get a playoff series win, not make a finals appearance, and we don't have to be the team to beat them, because maybe it will be a bad look for Giannis to go to the team that's knocked him out 3 or 4 years at that point. But if this is another factor that is positive for the Raptors and potentially recruiting Giannis, not being the team that has prevented him from going to the finals of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've highlighted the reasons. Maybe we can link the video or something like that in the comment section below for those that haven't read it. But there is a bunch of reasons, including his relationship with Masai Ujiri, Toronto's winning culture, some of the players that you could put around Giannis that are still really young, that you'd have a lot of years left to sort of play them through. There's a lot of reasons. We broke it down, I think, really well. We're touting our own horn here, but I think we broke it down really well in the video that we made on the Giannis situation. But Ben, I guess we're circling back to now the question, what would it take to land Giannis in the free agency? And we're looking what was when we opened the discussion initially 2 years from now. We're kind of encroaching in on it being only 1 year in the future, and we have that expiring contract of Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Fred VanVleet, Hollis Jefferson, who's not really that critical, I guess you could say.
Well, not that expensive.
Not that expensive, yeah. But he's not a big. And the issue is do we want to keep around our bigs? Do we want to lose them? I think, you're willing to sacrifice bigs if you know you're going to get in return Giannis and you already have Pascal Siakam. But like I said, we have a lot of expiring contracts we have to max out Fred for the most part, or he's going to get swooped up, right? We've already been paying Norman Powell, so we don't have a lot of cap space, especially to sign a max player. What would it take? What kind of chess pieces are we playing here in order to be in that conversation if he doesn't sign a supermax with the Bucks?
Well, we do have the cap space in 2021. We have all these expirings happening this season.
Assuming we don't re-sign our guys, though, Ben.
Yep, for sure. So this is the risk, because I think in our last video, and obviously that was really early in the season, I think Norm was struggling, but Fred VanVleet has amped his play up to a whole nother level this season, and he's going to be getting, as you mentioned, around a max contract. And I think the smart move is to bring back Fred VanVleet, even if it compromises some of the cap space in 2021. I think he's a player you have to bring back. But one of the guys that we sort of wrote off is Norman Powell, and he's been getting paid $10-11 million now for the past couple seasons, and he has a player option in that 21-22 season, and we were consensus that the way Norm was playing, he was going to pick up that option. He was going to pick up that $11 million, and we'll just have to take that cap hit. And right now, that would be an absolute bargain for the Toronto Raptors if he were willing to pick up that $11 million cap hit. He's been averaging like 20 points per game in 2020. He's amped up his scoring, his playmaking, his efficiency, just not turning over the ball this season. He's just became the player I've been hoping he'd become for the past 3 or 4 seasons. He's just been an absolute beast. What we might have to decide between Fred VanVleet and Norman Powell, and that's going to be a tough decision because they might get paid differently. Obviously, they provide different things, bring different things to the table. Maybe different teams are interested in them. Obviously, we have Kyle Lowry at point guard. Norm is more of a natural too, but obviously Fred has been the guy closing the games. These are some decisions that have to be made, and if we sign both of them to big contracts, that might be something that might prevent Giannis from coming to the Raptors. So
but the Norman Powell player option wouldn't affect us signing Giannis. It would affect our ability to re-sign Norman Powell if he declines the option, because that expires 1 year after we land him, right? No,
I'm saying that we thought that he'd pick it up considering he was playing poorly. So we just put that into the cap hit, but now he's going to get paid even more if we want to keep him on the Raptors.
But I think the issue is, if we're arguing that Giannis wants to go to a team that has a winning potential and we don't re-sign some of our crucial guys and our team doesn't have success in the regular season or make a deep playoff push next season, we lose a lot of our argument as towards why Giannis would be tempted to come to the Toronto Raptors. So I think if I'm looking just at the salaries right now, I would say we're playing most of our season without Marc Gasol anyways due to injuries. Say what you want about Serge Ibaka, but really I don't think that we can just pick up, I don't think we can get rid of 2 of our critical bigs that helped us win a championship and then replace that with an equally as important big that can help us with a big playoff push. I think we need to pick one of those guys. It makes sense to keep Serge Ibaka around. You pay Fred VanVleet with that salary that you've sort of given up from letting go Marc Gasol, and then now you just need to make it work with some other sort of contract adjustment. And then that's where I'm looking at, well, what do we do? And then you're right, the conversation comes to, is Norman Powell a guy that we want to keep on? How can we sort of manage the rest of our contracts that we have? How deep into our luxury tax can we go? It's an interesting conversation to have, Ben, because I really think we need to have success next season as well, more than the Bucks if we want to have a shot. And that's also happening after he needs to turn down a Supermax contract offer this summer.
That's facts. Because this season, obviously, just to list them off, Gasol and Ibaka are expiring, Fred's expiring, Boucher and Miller, Malcolm Miller, Rondé, they're all off the books this year. So if we want to bring back those guys, they have to be paid immediately. Then after 2021, the season that Giannis is a free agent, we have guys like Terrence Davis is a free agent, OG Anunoby's a free agent who a 3-and-D wing that plays the defense the level he does and has improved three-point shooting. He's going to get paid as well. Norm will likely be off the books at that point. Lowry will be off the books at that point. So these are guys that I think a lot of Raptors fans want to bring back. I myself included, and ideally we just be able to insert Giannis in with all this core group of guys, but that'll be tough making the money work. Riker, it's going to be tough decisions, because if we say, hey, Serge, take this 1-year deal, maybe he doesn't accept that as he's getting older. He's 30 years old now. And if we want to bring back Gasol, maybe these guys want more stability, more long-term money. Obviously, Fred is going to want that dollar value. So we're going to have to commit to some of these players before we know that Giannis is for sure coming. And should we hedge our bets that, does Masai Ujiri say, hey, we're going to go all out and make a bet and maybe give up some of our talent in the hopes that Giannis comes and fills that void? Or do we say, hey, it's a long shot that he comes in the first place? We keep these players now. And that's been the talk that we've been debating, and things have changed over time, obviously, as players have gotten better. Some players have regressed. The different contract situations happened. I know 2021 was a big topic of discussion for Lowry's contract, and he ended up just taking a 1-year, $30 million extension and then probably seeing what happens in 2021. But there's a lot of things to take into account, and I've come to the same conclusion seemingly every time. I trust Masai Ujiri's not going to do anything stupid. I think he's going to keep us talented in the season of 2020 and 2021, and he's not going to sacrifice the Raptors' future on a New York Knicks-esque bet where yeah.
But there's a lot of moving parts, Ben, and I haven't really flushed out the numbers because I'm sort of thinking as we talk, and I'm just looking here at the salaries. And just really quickly, what I kind of see happening is, we have two bigs. If we do land Giannis, we're fine. We're comfortable having him as the front court. The front court bat. What are the bigs? Yeah, him and Siakam. We'd probably let Marc Gasol walk. Let Serge Ibaka come off the bench, being our sort of veteran big. Kyle Lowry,
we could start Serge too. We could start Giannis and then Siakam at the 3, maybe OG.
But I'd like to have a legitimate big coming off the bench. So this is what I'm saying: you let Marc Gasol walk now. You extend Serge Ibaka, hopefully on same contract as what he has, maybe a bit reduced. Kyle Lowry, you want him back in sort of a legacy position after the 2021 season, so hopefully he'll stay on a reduced contract. Norman Powell, you sort of look at that when the situation comes. Fred VanVleet, you give him whatever money he wants because he's the future of the point guard position. Patrick McCaw, you let him walk. Stanley Johnson, he's already gone. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, maybe you can keep him around on a smaller contract. Pascal Siakam's already locked in. And then the big issue for me comes with OG Anunoby, because with his actual productivity, I get that he's a wing D guy, he's a big size body, but he is pretty much the same position as Giannis and Siakam, to an extent that he's long, defensive, an attacker, just not as polished as those two. But being on the points per game that he has, he's not the guy that you want to pay to keep around. You can get a good defensive guy that only gives you 5 points per game that doesn't have as much upside as OG Anunoby, that you don't have to pay as much. So that's the one guy that I would look to as a real, will we keep him around or will we keep him around or not, in the argument of we kind of want to keep our roster as is. So that's just sort of my thoughts off the cuff, Ben, because this is, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And there's, like I said, so many moving parts. So it's tough to keep. Yeah.
Well, the OG is a big one, and fortunately, we have him under contract for next year as well. So we have a full another season to evaluate sort of where he is at. But Riker, just imagine the defensive lineup of a guy like either Fred or Lowry at point, a feisty point guard that we've seen both of them be, almost all defense level point guards in terms of guarding people down low and around the perimeter and just taking charges and that. So let's just say Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Serge Ibaka. Imagine that defensive lineup on the court. That would be the most suffocating defense of all time, in my opinion.
It would be up there. It would be up there in running, Ben. It would, I don't know. It would be a spectacle to see for sure.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to keep all the guys around. I have trust in Masai and whatever decisions he makes, and he probably knows more about the situation. Well, he definitely knows more about the situation than the average person. Yeah, like the insides of whether Giannis is going to come or not, and it's positive. I think that the Bucks don't have a chance to make the finals this year, and Giannis can have a surefire reason to sign that supermax. I think that's a positive for the Raptors this year. And we have the best chances yet, I think, with the playoffs not potentially happening and getting them. I think it's only increased the odds, but it's going to be a lot of moving parts. A lot of interesting things have to play out, and it's a good thing we have a good captain of the ship to manage these tides and potentially land a prize like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Absolutely, Ben. Uh,
We're
I thought I had something, but that's it. It's a conversation we're going to obviously continue to have, and now that we're back up and running with the podcast, Ben, lots of stuff is going to come up for sure.
For sure. Well, you guys are the best to make it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all the cool stuff. Riker, have any last words?
Stay inside. Buy lots of toilet paper.
Don't buy lots of toilet paper.
Hoard the toilet paper.
That.
Hoard it all. Steal it.
That's tough.
Take reasonable amounts of toilet paper, everyone. Cheers.
Yep.